So this is FM 89.9 KMOJ. This is the program, The African Roots Connection, and we come to you live every Saturday from 9 to 10. As I said earlier on, we do have the director of the film, Chicken and the Gun, and I said someone who actually associated with the African Roots Connection program previously, and is
Ambe.
Ambe. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Thank you.
All right, so let's tell us a little bit about this movie called Chicken and the Gun. That's a very interesting title, though.
Yes, it is, and it's been intriguing to a lot of people, and they've tried to ask me what that means, and I just tell them come to the show, and you will see how that title came about. Very important.
So you can't even give a little bit of how it came about, because I'm not so anxious to know how you select the chicken and the gun.
Well, and I'm going to give you a little bit of that.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, African people have their products.
Right.
And one of the products that we value in Africa is our chickens. And
I agree.
Yes, and the people who come in with guns and take our chickens.
Right.
And so this story is about the ownership of the chicken and the seizure of a chicken using a gun. And that's how it came about. That.
So then I'm assuming that there must be some kind of irony in there, some figurative expression in there that a chicken means something more than just a chicken that a gun came and took away.
That is true, because the chicken means food, it means investments, it means continuity. There's a lot of things associated to the chicken.
And you talk about Africa, so you are from Africa?
Absolutely, I'm from Africa.
What part of Africa?
I'm from the Cameroons.
To Cameroon. You hesitate a lot to say that. I know you got Francophone Cameroon, Anglophone Cameroon. Does that really matter right now?
Well, it does matter, and that's why I call it the Cameroons.
The Cameroons.
Yes, I could have just said Cameroon, but then I wanted to say the Cameroons because they're those two parts that make up that place.
All right. So, and how long have you been in Minnesota?
Well, I've been in Minnesota here for quite a while, since the 80s. I went to college here, and since then I've been living here. Is
there any part of your experience that influenced this movie at all?
You can say most of it is really my experience, yes. My experience as far as living in Africa, my experience as far as living in the United States, and my experience as far as studying and observing the political, situation in Africa and how it affects us in the United States.
Okay. And is this your first film?
No, it is the first major feature that I'm bringing out.
Okay.
But I've made quite a few films actually. In fact, one of my documentaries, The Making of a Lesson Man, won the best political documentary at the New York Film Festival in 2005.
Congratulations, impressive.
Yeah, thank you.
So what made you to transition from documentary to an actual film?
Well, documentaries are they're more educational.
Right.
And sometimes people come to them with the sense of learning. And I think when you make feature films, people come to them with a sense of entertaining, and through that entertaining they can also learn. Yeah, so I think I make both, but I think that the feature films, the narratives, tend to draw in more people, and then if you have a message, then the message can definitely trigger to more people also.
So is any part of this film any scene film in Africa at all? No,
it's all filmed in the United States. In fact, all of it in Minnesota.
All of it in Minnesota. How did you get your actors and actresses? Did you audition, or did you require people with the African accent to really play those roles?
I auditioned them. By the way, the film does not only have Africans in it.
Okay.
It has a lot of Americans. It has a lot of Cameroonians. It has it has Liberian actors. And so it's a film that really brought good actors. We cast good actors. It doesn't matter where you come from.
Okay. And so you directed a film. Did you also write it?
I wrote the film. I directed it. I also went to film school. So I shot it. I did a lot of the work on the film.
Okay. So the premise of this film has a political undertone.
It does have a political undertone. And let me say this.
Okay.
I don't know that you can make a truly African film without a political undertone.
I agree.
Because we're still our politics is still very unsettled. And so I almost feel that, filmmakers in Africa have a special responsibility to bring that in no matter what story they're telling. It doesn't have to be a political story, but there's a political undertone because, like I said, the politics of Africa is still unsettled. And because it is still unsettled, it affects Africans wherever they go.
Yeah. Correct. And so, how's Cameroon right now? How's the political atmosphere in Cameroon?
Well, that's a big topic. So, but I'm going to give you a brief summary of it. I think the political situation in Cameroon, like in all francophone countries, is still very unsettled. And I've said this.
I don't think it's only francophone, anglophone countries too.
Well, yeah, and I totally agree.
Yeah.
But the problem with the francophones in particular is that France is still very heavily involved in running those places. So for me, they remain colonies. They're not really independent yet. I think the English-speaking countries are truly independent, but they have problems which they still need to settle among themselves.
Okay. So you think the political problem in Cameroon is more of an outside intervention than most of the Anglophone is mostly civil, tribal, internal?
It's in francophone countries, there are two players.
Mm-hmm.
They're the French and then the people they're trying to control internally.
Right.
And they are surrogates internal. And take, for example, Nigeria. I mean, you cannot say Britain controls how Nigeria is run. But the Nigerians still have to settle themselves. And it took 200 years for the United States to be where it is now, or more than 200 years actually.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not blaming these Anglophone countries because Ghana has, is putting its house together.
Very,
and I think, and I want to say that Ghana has actually moved ahead of Nigeria.
Yes.
So in time, I'm sure we'll all come. We're very young, the young countries developing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that if you want to put them in stages, the Anglophone countries are in stage 2 of that development. Francophone countries are still in stage 1, meaning that they're still trying to free themselves from a colonial power that is still there. And there's a little bit of that in this movie, actually.
Very interesting because growing up in an Anglophone country, we always thought the Francophone was a little bit better because the French still had a heavy involvement. Our neighbors, La Côte d'Ivoire, we always thought that they were a little bit more European than we were because of the French heavy involvement. But I guess at some point, when it starts to affect your sovereignty, then it's a problem.
I'm so glad you brought that because if you look at the difference between Côte d'Ivoire or Ivory Coast and Ghana,
Mm-hmm.
yes, Ivory Coast used to, there were articles where they wrote that they're the Paris of West Africa.
Yeah.
But look at the French just came in a few years ago and destroyed the whole thing. But Ghana has been steadily moving up, and right now their democracy and their economy is one of the most stable.
Yeah.
So you could look better, but if that better is being managed by somebody else, they can destroy it anytime. And that's why Anglophone countries are better, even if there's that impression like you just expressed.
Mm-hmm. So is there a possibility that one day the French could be far removed from the continent where we can control ourselves, especially the Francophone?
Well, we're hoping. In fact, when Sarkozy came to power, he said, he's going to resolve it.
Mm-hmm.
But Mitterrand, who was before that, made it very clear that if France were to get out of Africa, France would be different. It'd be like Portugal or one of those. I don't want to call them banana republics, but they will not be France. And that's why there is that problem right now.
And that's what François Mitterrand said.
Yes, François Mitterrand said France will not remain the same without Africa.
So Sarkozy is taking a different approach where he's trying to get...
Well, look, Sarkozy came in trying to say that, that everybody sees that it's ridiculous what we're doing there. They still have troops all over the place in Africa right now.
Right.
So he said that he's going to dislodge that system, he's going to destroy it. But the French benefit so much from it that it is hard to just pull away from such a loot. I call it a loot, really.
So going back to the film Chicken and the Gun, is that film going to be shown in Africa though?
Not right now, because what we're doing here in Minnesota tomorrow is really a pre-release.
Okay.
And then after that, we would, have a strategy where this film is distributed worldwide.
So besides the message, what did you enjoy the most about this project?
Let me tell you the first thing, and it's not only me, but it's what is happening in the African film industry.
Yeah.
We are really beginning to tell our own stories.
Yeah.
Because when we allowed Europeans to write our novels,
Mm-hmm.
or they're writing their own story about us, they're not really telling our stories.
Correct.
And so when we start making our own movies, start writing our own novels, start singing our own songs, we're really telling our own stories. And so what I enjoyed the most is that I had creative control. Me and my team had creative control. We had control of the story. It's authentic. We're telling our own story with our own voice, with our own bodies, with our own faces.
How much of this story you think is fiction, or how much you think is a reality?
You know,
or is fact?
it is. That's a very interesting question, because we're not telling the story of a specific person, but the story is based on reality.
Because I know to tell an African story, you almost have to induce a little bit of fiction to kind of tie it together and make it. You know, growing up, your grandparents tell you stories, and your grand aunt will tell you the same story, but slightly different. So I think, you know, it's part of our culture, deeply rooted in our culture, that we sometimes, you know, add these pieces to the story to really make it meaningful and bring it to life.
Absolutely. Obviously, this is not a documentary.
Right, it's not. Okay.
It is a narrative, but it's a narrative that informs of the situation and of some of the realities that we live in this country.
In making this film, you talk about, you know, how you had the leverage of freedom and authenticity, how you selected your own theme, your scene, your actors and actresses. You had that freedom to do that. But I'm assuming that there must be some challenges in you doing this all by yourself.
Well, I had financial support. But as far as the creative part of it, look, this is something I really enjoy doing. I did economics in college, but
and then you're filming now.
Yes, well, you know, one of the things that, like I said, when you're an African, you come out of a very troubled situation, and so when you travel the world, you see how much more the world is different, or how much more the world functions, and how much more freedom is available in the rest of the world, especially in the United States. So when you come here as an African, I can tell you, your eyes are not just open to one thing. So having been educated as an economist, then you get to understand how the world functions. And then how I got into film is I said, okay, I can write a book, but when you write a book, only a few people read it. So that's how I got into film. I was looking for the most interesting, the most far-reaching way to communicate a story to both my people and the rest of the world.
So have you decided yet when and where would this film be? When would you have your grand viewing? Because I mean, this is like a pre-launch, right?
It's next Sunday,
next Sunday, and that's at St. Anthony Main Theater.
Yes, it is tomorrow, Sunday, December 11th, St. Anthony.
And so after that, are you going to make some tweaks to it before you really do your big launch?
You know, there's a team that works on the marketing of it, and I'm sure they look. When we did the making of A Lesser Man, we went through when you make a movie, the best way of doing it is you go to film festivals. Through those film festivals, you meet with people whose business is to take movies and distribute or sell all over the world. So right now we're still at the stage where we want to first of all bring it to our community here, share it, and then after that the marketing strategy would fall in place.
So what's next after this?
You know, after this is just more films.
Yeah, I mean, any idea? Like, is it going to be romance? Is it still going to be political, social economics?
Let me say this though: this film is not so much a political film. The politics is in the background.
Right.
It's really a story about these two individuals who live in the United States, but the politics of their country affects their relationship, and so we would be experiencing how this affects their relationship, and obviously. See how complex our lives are as Africans, even when we move away from Africa.
So those who will go to see this film, at the end of the day, what do you want them to walk away with?
They'll walk away knowing how, in fact, they'll walk away knowing how complex an African life is. They'll walk away knowing how complex Africa is set up. They'll walk away knowing how complex African lives are in this place, in the United States, that when you see an African, you're seeing somebody who is dealing with family problems back in Africa. He's dealing with political problems back in Africa. He's dealing with his life here. He's dealing with relationships that are complicated by some of those backgrounds that I just gave you.
It's kind of interesting because for the past few weeks on this program, we've been talking about that relationship between African and African Americans. And one of the things I always talk about is sometimes people talk a lot about how Africans sometimes don't smile, they're mean looking, and I always tell them, I said, people have got, like for me, my mom is still in Liberia. I mean, as politically stable as it may seem, there's still secret killings going around.
Absolutely.
I don't know if I call her this, she's going to answer the phone. That's on my mind, you know?
Absolutely.
the smiling part is not something that we readily do unless we know all is well. But all cannot be well because it's our background is very troubled, and there's so many pieces to it. And where people here grew up in one country has been stable for, God knows how long, it's the best democracy on earth. For us, we come from very trouble, like you said, trouble background. We think about our aunts, our uncles, if they're alive today, what did they eat today, what's going on, what political unrest they're faced with. So it's very interesting that you share that view, because I think that there's a lot on an African mind, especially when he leaves his country, because while you appreciate and enjoy what you see, it only reminds you of what you left behind
and what you could bring back there.
Yeah.
But let me say something else about what you just said. Africans don't just smile. I think it's in American culture to just smile even if they're not meant to smile.
Yeah.
Africans really smile when they mean it, and sometimes they mean it, but you can't see it in their face because they're not really smiling. Smiling it means one thing to us. To Americans, it means a lot more. So when you see an African, he's not smiling. It doesn't mean that he's not happy.
He's not angry.
No, he's not. He's not. It's just him.
And so my son at school, his friends are kind of intimidated, afraid of me. Your dad doesn't smile. And he's like, if you got to know my dad, he's very goofy. He jokes a lot. He dances. He sings off key. I mean, he's just crazy, but the kids really don't believe that until they get close to me and they realize that, you can tell me anything, you can joke and talk with him. But it's kind of hard to just walk around with a smile.
Yes, I've had my co-workers tell me that I have friends who, when we became friends, they're like, Augie, before we became friends, you were so intimidating to me. But, like you just said, I'm goofy, I'm funny, but, you have to come closer to know that.
That's how my grandfather was. He was 6'6", black, bald hair, red eyes. When you see him, you tremble. Yeah. But if you get, he'll tickle you, he'll make you laugh.
It's a teddy bear.
Yeah. So that's very interesting. So again, this show is viewed tomorrow, right? 6:30 at the St. Anthony. Do you have an address for St. Anthony?
St. Anthony, Maine is 115 Southeast Main Street in Minneapolis, just across the river.
And is there a possibility that this film could be bought on Amazon or somewhere at some point if someone wants to own a copy?
Yeah, it's not available on DVD yet. Okay. Like I said, what we're trying to do now is bring the project to our community here first, and then once we've done that, then there will be a marketing strategy, and then we'll decide how to get the film to the rest of the world.
So as we wrap this up, you talk about how now there's this proliferation of African movie. You grab yourself a HD camera. Some people gifted, some people, literally, educated in that area where they can produce a film like you have. So this privilege we have, what does that do for us, though, as far as just projecting our own image abroad, as far as telling our stories? You think it could actually hurt us or help us to tell our story?
Let me give you an analogy. Okay, when you open the door so that fresh air should come in, I can tell you what mosquitoes and flies come in, and so that's the unwanted part. Yeah, there's some African films that you look and you say, there's a better way of portraying that.
Right.
Yeah, and so, but the thing is, like you just said, there's a lot of, in the past, it used to be equipment and capital. Right now, equipment is easy, and with easy equipment, you don't even need capital. So right now, it's really the storytelling and the technique of telling, and most people who have cameras really don't have that. And so you have a lot of films a lot of African films made that are very questionable. And so, but the good thing is, there are two good things there. One is that we are telling our stories, whether we're telling them right or wrong, or whether we're telling them well, is a different question. But we are telling our own stories, because if you read the stories that were told about Africa by foreigners, that's how Tarzan got created. Yes, and they tell very, very, very bad stories and stories that are not true. And so the good thing is that we are telling our own stories, and we can only get better. And if you look at African movies, they've become better and better and better, and I can tell you very soon they'll be competing very effectively internationally.
During the Civil Rights movement here, there's an era called the Harlem Renaissance, where black people got involved in literary work, where their music and their artwork and their poetry was actually telling the story that was never heard of by everyone, and that led to a boom, and to see African American in a more intellectual light Do you think because we have so much to tell that Africans also could be projected at a higher level because we have a camera, we have a rich reservoir of stories to tell?
I think that is coming. Like I said, I think we are improving. But as I was reading a piece where it's saying how they produce like 2,000 movies in Nigeria every year. That's a lot of movies. Yeah. But the reason they do so many is because a lot of them go to piracy, and so these filmmakers have to keep making movies to live. Mm-hmm. But once we stabilize that situation, then they would stop doing the horse race and then start doing a lot more investigative and start thinking more carefully what they want to put on film. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I want to say about this movie that we will be seeing is that when you come there, what artists do is that we can either show society for what it is, or we can show society for what it can be. Right. This film tries to capture society for what it is, and then makes us think, oh my goodness, how can we improve that? Right. So I think with time, what happened in the Renaissance in this country is I think we are in that process right now in Africa.
Mm-hmm. How long is this film?
This film goes for 130 minutes. 130 minutes. It's a very engaging movie, and there's a trailer out there, and some of the people who have seen it have been very excited about what they expect from the movie, and I can tell that people will be thrilled.
So you pleased with the work?
Oh, I'm so excited about this film. I can't wait to show it, okay. because you actually see people that transform into incredible actors. Mm-hmm. And obviously, having been through film school myself, the story is well told and it's well crafted.
Okay. I almost said Augustine, but I'll call you nearby. Thanks for stopping by this morning. I hope people crowd the theater tomorrow at 6:30 at St. Anthony Mean to watch Chicken and a Gun. And in all your subsequent projects, I just wish good luck to you. And I always admire your spirit and tenacity when it comes to Africa and the liberation of the continent and trying to ease off some of the problems. You're very passionate about that. Sometimes I think you will go back home and run to be a president of Cameroon.
That let's not even go there. But this is what I want to say more.
Go ahead.
What I want to say more is that we talked about African films and some of the questions you've asked. I want to say that your show is part of what you've been talking about, part of the Renaissance that you're talking about, yeah. and the topics you've covered on this show, and the people you've brought to us in this community. It's a voice that I can tell that wasn't there before, or not there in the intensity and the continuity that you've provided for this community. And so I really do appreciate you. I do appreciate being on your show.
Okay, well, thank you, man. Thanks for stopping by this morning. We appreciate you too, and good luck tomorrow, 6:30. St. Anthony Mean, y'all. Come up there and see Chicken and a Gun. Very interesting. I love the topic.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is FM 89.9 KMOJ. We are the People's Station.